Welcome to the channel, and we invite you to watch a video featuring our new original story. Derek, please, tell me this is a joke. Mia looked at her husband with huge, lost green eyes from the passenger seat. No, I won't, Derek replied coldly. I've made a decision. It's time for us to divorce. But why? Her voice trembled. What happened? What's wrong? Derek suddenly slammed his hands on the steering wheel and turned toward the young woman. Everything is wrong, Mia. We're getting in each other's way. We have completely different goals and different ways of achieving them. I'm growing in my profession, and you're treading water. I'm planning for reality, and you're building castles in the air. Mia listened to the person she had considered her soulmate for the past 5 years with a shudder and an internal breakdown. The corners of her lips twitched, barely holding back the emotions threatening to burst out. Since our wedding, nothing has changed in your life. You were working as a waitress then, and you're working as a waitress now. If I told anyone my wife runs around with trays in a restaurant at 28 years old, they'd laugh, Derek continued. I'm tired of supporting your useless dreams about the stage. Tired, do you understand? But what's bad about that? Mia asked quietly. Everyone dreams of something. I go to auditions. I take lessons with a vocal coach. I write songs. In response, Derek looked at her as if he had never heard greater nonsense in his life. I kept waiting for you to grow up, honey, he exhaled irritably. But you probably have no intention of doing so. Well, I have no intention of continuing to build a relationship with a dreamy, infantile girl with a useless education and no career aspirations. We are too different. Mia didn't argue anymore. She just looked at her own knees. The sharp scent of a new air freshener hanging from the rearview mirror stung her nose. A warm tear rolled down her cheek. The young woman immediately wiped it away with the back of her hand. Derek couldn't stand it when she cried. I hope you understood everything and have processed it, the man said, his voice now quieter and calmer. I found another place to live the other day. I'll be moving out shortly. Should we go file for divorce together, or should I go myself? Do as you wish, the girl said detachedly. I'm going. My break is ending. Excellent. I'm glad we decided everything so quickly. Derek even started smiling. Then bye. Bye, Mia repeated mechanically and left her husband's car. She walked toward the restaurant, pinning her name tag to her shirt as she went, clutching it in her hand the whole time. The October wind, already unfriendly and cold, blew right through her clothes. How foolish and sudden it all was. Or was it only sudden for her? Judging by Derek's words, he had planned the divorce for a long time. He had already found an apartment and prepared his arguments. Could people really split up not because of a scandal, infidelity, or money, but simply because of mismatched life goals? Turns out, they could. Mia didn't fully believe what was happening, and she didn't believe that her dreams were as useless and naive as her husband said. Were they really the stumbling block in their marriage? The girl searched for answers but found none. Mia, a big table of 5, just walked in. Can you take it? Paula, her colleague and friend, intercepted her at the kitchen entrance. I'll take it. Mia nodded and mechanically pulled several menus from the rack near the POS system. A large table could leave a good tip, and money was now more necessary than usual. She needed to pay for a rental apartment, pay her vocal coach, and cover a bunch of other needs. Maybe Derek is right. And I really am an infantile fool, believing in miracles, Mia thought, heading toward the table of guests. What would you like to order? She smiled broadly and froze with her notepad in front of the customers. At work, no one cared about the head waitress's personal tragedy. 10-year-old Mia watched a music show on TV with rapture, quietly singing along to her favorite performer. Mom, will I be able to sing like that? The girl asked, poking her finger at the screen. Well, of course you can, smiled her mother, who was ironing clothes in the corner. If you believe and put in the effort, then anything is possible. Mia remembered those words forever. Faith and effort. Faith and effort. The girl repeated quietly every evening, imagining herself in the spotlight on stage in front of an audience and fans. Her mom signed her up for the school choir, which she attended twice a week. Mia's voice wasn't exactly strong. She periodically ran out of breath, and certain notes refused to submit to her. She stumbled, swallowed sounds, and then listened to remarks from the instructor and, of course, got upset. Her first performance at a school holiday concert seemed fateful to Mia, but contrary to expectations, no one gave her flowers or admired her except her mom, of course. The teacher merely shook her head dejectedly. Mia didn't sing solos anymore. She was put on backing vocals for another girl who turned out to be more gifted and could sing exactly as the teacher required. In high school, Mia left the school choir and started going to the local community art center. The instructor there was a young woman who had barely finished music college herself. She, on the contrary, praised Mia but gave her very simple songs with a narrow vocal range. Mia liked it, but she felt she could do more and better. Once, she volunteered to sing a composition completely atypical for her timbre at a local festival where young talents were invited to perform. She sang it, but by the end, she blew out her voice. Afterward, she could barely speak for several days. After graduating high school, the girl wanted to apply to a specialized arts college to further develop as a pop performer, but her father laughed at her. "Okay, you messed around with that nonsense in school, but where to now? Are you going to sing with a guitar at train stations and count coins in your case?" He sneered, and then added more sternly, "I am not going to pay for such nonsense. Choose a normal major that will feed you. Doctor, lawyer, accountant, manager, economist. Are there not enough professions today?" "But Dad," Mia tried to object. "I said no, and that means no." Her father cut her off. The graduate had no choice. With a heavy heart, she had to enroll in the business administration program at a well-known university in the city. Faith and effort. Mia recalled her mother's words while sitting through boring lectures. Realizing that no one else would help her, the girl joined the university choir. There, they listened to her singing and critically assessed her appearance. "Honey, you sing mediocrely." The mannered choir director walked around the new girl after her audition. "If you had artistry and charisma, no one would notice. But as it stands, alas, work on your presentation, and then we'll talk. For now, you can't pull off individual numbers. Do you want to do backing vocals?" "I don't." The girl was offended, remembering how she got stuck there in her school years. "No means no." The man shrugged indifferently. Mia didn't poke her nose into student clubs anymore. She immediately applied for a citywide talent competition. The winner was promised help with promotion and recording their own album. She chose a song, rehearsed, performed, and again went unnoticed. After a year of study, Mia realized it was nauseating to cram knowledge into herself that was neither needed nor desired. Without telling her father, she quit school to work as a waitress and used the money she earned to try and promote her own music. But no one was eager to get involved with a beginner who didn't stand out among hundreds of others. Or, recording studios and promotion agents quoted such high prices that 19-year-old Mia felt faint. She tried, fought, struggled, applied for all sorts of contests, city and state, but either didn't qualify or gave a mediocre performance. Meanwhile, the girl was expelled from the university for academic failure and failing exams. Her father threw a fit when he found out what happened and declared that if his daughter was such an adult and working, she could support herself from now on. An angry Mia packed her things and moved into a rented room with girlfriends from her former university. The girl continued to work, but soon realized that without an education, she had few prospects in life. She saved up some money and applied for school again. This time, to a place that was cheaper and simpler: management. "Mom, maybe it's time for me to give up and quit singing?" Mia asked sadly, sitting at her parents' house. "Daughter, sooner or later, your finest hour will come. Don't despair," her mother comforted her. Secretly from the father, she helped Mia with money and gave her groceries. When her father learned that his daughter was still striving to get an education, he thawed and even invited her to move back into the family home. But the offended girl refused. Several years passed like this. Mia studied and almost forgot about singing. At one of the banquets where Mia was working with other staff, a handsome guest noticed her. He persistently invited the pretty, green-eyed waitress for a date, paid her several compliments, and eventually the girl agreed. Derek turned out to be 2 years older, a cheerful, impressive men's hairstylist, a barber. He quickly won the sympathy of his new acquaintance. He dreamed of opening his own salon and colorfully described how he would achieve it. The young man's ambitions inspired Mia to start singing again. The girl was included in the backing vocals for a concert of a well-known local performer. Preparation, rehearsals, and nerves took a lot of energy, and she was still working. Mia sat in classes, sleepy and barely understanding what the lecturer was saying. One failed test, then a second, and then she learned the news that the concert would take place on the day of a major exam. Mia tried to arrange an individual makeup test, but no one would listen to her. In the end, the unlucky singer was expelled again. It was terrifying to tell her parents about what happened, especially her father. She couldn't come up with anything better than to say she had transferred to the online program. Meanwhile, Derek's career was going uphill. He was invited to intern at a famous barbershop in the city. After working there for a month as a trainee, the young man got his own chair and a stream of new clients. "Why does it happen like this?" Mia said in the evenings when she came home. "Everything comes so easily to you, and I've been struggling for years, and all my efforts are in vain." "Don't be sad. You'll succeed at something too. Everything has its time," Derek comforted her, and then suggested, "Maybe you should do something else? Doing acrylic nails or eyelashes? It's a profitable business right now." "No, I feel that my calling is specifically in singing." Mia shook her head and hugged Derek tighter. He just sighed and stroked the girl's hair. Since they moved in together 6 months ago, this conversation had repeated often. But not everything was so gloomy in the life of the failed singer. There was a bright streak. In the restaurant where she worked, Mia was promoted to head waitress, and immediately after that, Derek proposed. The girl was truly happy for the first time in a long while. 2 families celebrated a cozy wedding with about 30 guests at Derek's parents' country house. Mia performed several songs there, cried with joy in the arms of her beloved husband, laughed with her girlfriends, and began to believe again that her dream would find fulfillment too. 2 months before the breakup, Mia walked into the apartment and wearily threw her backpack with her dirty uniform on the floor after her shift. The day had been infinitely long. Early in the morning, she went to a studio for an audition with yet another agent, then worked until midnight and only got home at 1 a.m. "How are things?" Derek walked out of the kitchen, sipping tea. "Disgusting," Mia sighed tiredly. "Why is that?" The man stopped nearby. This sound agent demanded a wild sum for producing, and then Mia's voice trembled with resentment. When I replied that I couldn't afford it, he looked at me like a piece of meat. "Does everyone really get on stage only through money or connections?" Derek shrugged, and then sympathetically patted his wife on the shoulder. "Don't let it get to you. You just got unlucky." "I haven't been lucky for the last 10 years, every single time," the girl burst out. "Maybe it's a hint from fate that it's time to stop suffering over nonsense and find a human job, instead of chasing a dream." "Haven't you thought about that?" the husband stated indifferently. Mia's face flushed, and her hands involuntarily clenched into fists from the insult. Only her mom and her husband had always believed in her. And here he was, her kindred spirit and beloved person, suddenly giving up ground and saying this. "Why are you getting offended? Not everyone is given the ability to jump above their head." Derek sipped his tea, looking down at her. "And the sooner you understand this, the more time you can live a normal life." Mia wanted to defend herself but realized she was very tired and just wanted to sleep. She simply had no strength to argue or even be disappointed. Tomorrow was work again. Falling asleep, the girl saw her husband intently studying a tutorial on creative men's haircuts. Despite what was said, despite her own failures, Mia was happy for her husband that at least his professional dream was coming true, and looking at him, she continued to believe in her own strength. Derek yawned and pressed the button on the coffee machine in the waiting area. It was empty right now. No early birds had booked haircuts the day before, which meant he could eat breakfast with a clear conscience and delve into a video review of new barber tools. All the years Derek had been cutting hair, he tried in every way to upgrade his skills. attending training, buying new scissors, combs, clippers, consulting with colleagues, and going to competitions. In short, he strove to hone his craft to perfection. And the more Derek grew in his profession, the more his wife's whining and her useless flailing in attempts to become a singer irritated him. At first, Mia seemed to him a spirited person with a beautiful dream, a determined girl, albeit on a thorny path. He helped her financially, looked for people who could promote her work to the masses and help with recording songs. But the more time passed, the less the man believed in his spouse, and the less warmth and support remained in him. "Excuse me, do you have an opening?" Derek heard behind him when he sat down on the sofa in the waiting area with a cup of coffee and his phone. "Yes, I have a window right now," he replied, lifting his head like lightning. "Oh, how wonderful." The woman insistently called someone from the street. "Please, cut my brother's hair. The semester starts soon, and you can't drag him to a barber." "Of course, come in." The barber smiled wider, threw away the empty cup, and stepped aside, inviting the young man to the chair. While Derek cut the guy's hair, he tried to figure out why his sister's face seemed vaguely familiar. When the work was finished and the woman was paying for the service, the barber couldn't resist and asked, "I beg your pardon, but I think we know each other. What is your name?" "Kyra." She raised her head and peered intently into the man's face. "Derek Martin? Is that you? Kyra Barnes?" He remembered joyfully. "Wow. How many years has it been since high school? 12? "Exactly." Kyra laughed and hugged Derek warmly in response. "Well, hello, classmate. And this is Phil," the man guessed, nodding at the young man waiting for his sister. "The very one," confirmed the woman. "You last saw him when Philip was walking under the table." Her brother snorted irritably, which was typical for any teenager in such a situation. "Well, look at that." Derek didn't take his eyes off Kyra. "Where have you been hiding? You didn't come to the reunion." "D-Rock, I'd be glad to chat, but we're already late," the woman fussed, looking at her wristwatch. "Wait work is waiting for me, and Phil has a meeting with his academic advisor. Write down my number. We can meet in the evening and chat over a pint." "Great idea," Derek rejoiced, hiding the business card in his jeans pocket. "I'll call." "Good." Kyra waved goodbye to him, and she and her younger brother left the barber shop. All day, Derek was in some kind of pleasant, languid anticipation. His former classmate answered his call only after lunch and set a meeting time nearby in a small bar. Already sitting at a table in the twilight of the establishment with 2 pints of craft beer, Derek examined the smiling and chatting Kyra. In a business suit and with a voluminous short haircut of dark hair swept to one side, the woman looked simply stunning. "After school, I went to study journalism in another state. The conditions were better, the program," she said, devouring nuts and snacks from a plate. "I started working right during my studies at a local news channel there. First as a reporter's assistant, then started preparing segments for broadcast myself. I finished university already having solid experience. Later became an assistant editor and senior correspondent." "And what happened that you returned to your hometown?" Derek took a sip from his pint. For the sake of the bar and Kyra, he left his car in the parking lot at work and decided to take an Uber home. He texted Mia that he went to sit with the guys. His wife sent a sad smiley in response but didn't object. The owner of the media holding company got involved in some shady criminal story, Kyra sighed. "First, they didn't pay us salaries for a long time, and then they completely gave us an ultimatum. Either leave or wait until everything settles down again. As you understand, I wasn't going to wait." "You did the right thing," Derek supported the woman. "You always need to look for better conditions." "So I found them," Kyra smiled. "Now I work here." Naturally, with such experience and knowledge, the local TV channel welcomed me with open arms and allocated 2 whole positions as an anchor and a correspondent. It's hard, but I manage. Plus, the pay is decent. I've already made a ton of useful connections. I hope that someday I'll become the editor-in-chief myself. I admire determined women." Derek couldn't contain his delight and immediately raised his glass. "To you and your success. You are just great." Kyra blushed flatteringly and, after the toast, asked somewhat coquettishly, "Well, how about you? How's life? Where did you end up?" "Oh, cutting hair little by little." Derek leaned back in his chair and straightened his shoulders. "Saved up for a decent car in a couple of years. I'm constantly learning. I can also boast of useful connections because I cut not the last heads in our city." Kyra laughed at the witty joke. They sat in the bar almost until closing. They drank considerably, laughed, and talked about everything in the world. Already on the street, while waiting for a taxi, Derek hugged the freezing Kyra from behind and whispered, "You know, I really liked you in high school. I was extremely upset when you left after graduation." "And now?" the journalist asked just as quietly without turning around. "Do you like me?" Instead of answering, Derek, charmed by the evening and relaxed by the alcohol, leaned down and kissed Kyra. The scent of her tart perfume completely turned his head. A car with a yellow sign on the roof rolled up to them. "I guess that means yes." Kyra deftly slipped out of Derek's embrace. "See you." "See you." The man watched the woman with a happy gaze. The smell of her perfume was still in his nose, and his heart beat frequently in his chest. Derek hadn't experienced such emotions with his spouse for several years. Mia glanced sadly at the text from her husband at 5 p. I'm going to a bar with colleagues after work. I'll be late." Lately, her husband often stayed late either for extra pay or found other reasons to appear at home later than usual. "Well, why should I be bored on my day off?" The girl looked at her reflection, smiled as if cheering herself up. Yes. Mia looked from the mirror toward the kitchen, where an apple pie was cooling. She wanted to drink tea with Derek, but alas, the girl remembered that she hadn't visited her grandmother for a long time, so she cut off half the pie, wrapped it in a towel, and got ready to go visit. Grandma Irene lived on the other side of the city, so Mia got to her only an hour later. Her paternal grandmother met her granddaughter warmly and welcomingly. She was pleasantly delighted that she brought homemade pastries. "I'm a bad grandma," the pensioner ironized, "brewing tea. I should be treating you to pies and cookies, not the other way around." "Grandma, stop it." Mia waved her hand. "It's a joy for me. I know you've seen enough of this cooking in your coffin after 30 years of working in a cafeteria." Grandma Irene laughed and pushed a cup and saucer toward Mia. "True enough, dear. How's your life? Tell me. Are you conquering the capital stage with your songs yet?" "Oh, Grandma," Mia sighed tiredly, remembering how the day before she broke a plate in a rush at the restaurant and was received a strict write-up from the manager. "From your lips to God's ears. Sound agents hike up prices, tear my lyrics to shreds. And performing at city events and singing covers has become so tiresome, I'm already losing even the ghostly remnants of hope." The elderly woman, seeing her sadness, put her warm, wrinkled hand on Mia's fingers. Grandma Irene supported all the dreams and undertakings of her only granddaughter from her very birth. Not as tremulously and carefully as her mother, but in her own way. She asked sympathetically, advised on the best course of action, recalled stories from her youth when she sang in the choir at the community center, comforted and encouraged. "I'm going to give you something right now," Grandma Irene remembered, and walked from the kitchen to the bedroom. Mia waited for her, stirring honey into her tea. Her thoughts swirled just like the sweet mass in the cup. "Here, put this on, wear it, and everything will definitely work out." The grandmother placed a bracelet made of round, but not perfectly even, green-gray stones on the table in front of her. "Grandma, this is very beautiful, only it's unlikely to save my already failed singing career." Mia looked sadly at the jewelry. "You just wear it without expectations." Grandma Irene put the bracelet on her granddaughter's wrist herself. "Aventurine is the stone of those who go toward their goal, and you are going, which means it will help." Mia looked warmly at her grandmother, and then at the jewelry, which cooled her hand pleasantly. Faith and effort, her mother's words surfaced in her head again. "Thank you," she thanked the elderly woman. "But no, the stone sometimes helps not quite in the way you think," Grandma Irene recalled. For example, Mia ran her fingers over the smooth beads. Where did you even get it, Grandma? A traveling Romanian fortune teller gave it to me in my youth, the woman remembered, wrinkling her forehead. I didn't believe her at first either. You know how people treated all these soothsayers back then. So, at that time, I kept dreaming of a dress made of Chinese silk. I saw it in a fashion magazine once, read that the wives of party secretaries wore such things. But where was a poor student supposed to get real silk back then? Mia listened with interest, imagining her grandmother as a young and rosy girl. So, continued Grandma Irene, one day I come to the dormitory to visit my admirer at the time. I look, and he's secretly making out with my shameless friend in the room. I chased them out, sat there crying alone on the bed in a strange dorm. I look down, and near my feet is my friend's bag. She left it on the rag rug, and in it lies a cut of silk. And not just any silk, but with a pattern like in that magazine. I wasn't a fool. I took it, brought it to a seamstress, and got my dress after all. All the neighbors were jealous. It was only later I found out that the grief-stricken friend's aunt had brought her the fabric from abroad, and she didn't ask for it back. Really? Mia was amused by her grandmother's story. You bet I'm shameless, Grandma Irene, naturally curled her fingers into a gesture. I took it as compensation for cheating and a ruined friendship. And what happened after? The girl chuckled and, propping her cheeks with her hands, stared expectantly at her grandmother. After that, she chewed her lips, remembering. I wore the bracelet every day since then, and one day the union gave us tickets to the theater. My friends and I got dressed up, the three of us went to the play, and I put on that very silk dress and completely charmed your late grandfather in it. So, the bracelet took away one thing but gave another, Mia drawled. More like it opened my eyes and got rid of the extra person. Her grandmother corrected her. Maybe I also need to get rid of something to finally get what I desire, the girl thought, looking at the green stones again. Anything is possible, dear. Grandma Irene poured her more tea. Anything is possible. Kyra straightened her blouse and blazer while sitting in the passenger seat of Derek's car. If I were your husband, I definitely wouldn't let you go to work looking so charming. The man ran a predatory gaze over her figure, but while you're someone else's husband, Kira playfully poked him in the nose with her finger. I wear what I want. Anyway, it's not for long. Derek pulled the journalist toward him again and buried his face in her hair. I wanted a divorce anyway, and now I'm completely sure of it. Listen, I'm not insisting. Kyra pulled away a little and looked at the man more seriously. I don't want to be a homewrecker. Derek even snorted. So spending time with me is okay, but me getting a divorce isn't? He clarified scathingly. Those are different things. Kyra fumbled on the back seat for her bag. Okay, I gotta run, and you need to hurry too. Sadly, you're right, Derek agreed. See you tomorrow. Yeah. The man watched her all the way to the building doors and sighed languidly, leaning back against the seat. He had found his ideal. Old high school feelings had flared up into a wild, blazing bonfire in just a month and a half, and Mia, with her whining and constant creative failures, looked completely pathetic. A choice had to be made. 30 minutes later, Derek was at work, laying out tools from his case on the workstation, and turned around as soon as he heard a client enter the shop. Roman. It's been a long time. He recognized a long-time client. Yeah, went to New York. The man greeted the barber with a friendly handshake and sat in the chair in front of the mirror. Worked with big-time celebrities? Derek asked, assessing the scale of work for his scissors. You wouldn't believe it, Roman grimaced. Wore myself out terribly there, left all my nerves behind. I want to leave the company for a while and take on my own independent project. Tired of consulting and adapting. Friendly conversation flowed into everyday topics. Roman had been getting his hair cut by Derek for the last year and a half, but disappeared in early spring and only returned to his hometown 8 months later. A talented sound engineer, arranger, and budding producer all rolled into one. He never bragged about his position or circle of connections. Looking at him, it was hard to tell that the man was wealthy, talented, and personally knew several artists regularly flashing on TV. Did the thought cross Derek's mind to introduce Roman to Mia? Naturally, it crossed his mind. But it never took human form. Firstly, the barber understood that the sound guy was just his client, a recent friend, and not a close relative to ask for such a favor. Secondly, knowing what celebrities he sometimes worked with, Derek simply felt embarrassed. All he did was find Roman's social media account and show it to Mia. Oh, Derek, his prices for promotion and help with recording songs are probably cosmic. The girl sadly scrolled through posts with photos of Roman, where he was at concerts, on islands, in a studio with the latest equipment, shaking hands with artists. Well, what did you expect? People like that don't run charities, confirmed Derek. Look through his followers for someone simpler in the same vein. Maybe you'll work something out. Roman appreciated the haircut, turning his head happily this way and that. He thanked Derek, left him a good tip, and gave him a flyer for a photo exhibition of a photographer friend. Hello? Let's go to an interesting place tomorrow. Derek immediately dialed his mistress's number. What? Oh, it's a surprise. You'll like it. Having received consent, he ended the call and grimaced, staring at the screen. There were several text messages from Mia hanging there. Time to end this drama, Derek said to himself and opened a website with apartment rental listings. He had wanted to move closer to work for a long time, and with his current income, he could easily afford it. After Derek packed his things and left, Mia held it together at work. But at home, she cried all night, sitting wrapped in a blanket on the balcony, looking through the sliding glass door at the avenue winding with red taillights. By morning, the tears had run out, and the realization that she was now alone fully set in. And then happened what many women do after breakups and divorces. Mia could have called and cried to her mom or grandmother, could have complained to a friend about the villainous fate, could have fallen into apathy and not left the house. She fiddled with the aventurine bracelet on her arm and suddenly realized she didn't want to whine anymore. Instead, Mia got herself together, cleaned herself up, and went outside. The clock showed about 8 a.m. Many beauty salons and barber shops weren't even open yet, but the aspiring singer got lucky. In a small courtyard nearby, she found a very inconspicuous hair salon. "Cut it into a bob and dye it red," the girl blurted out, sitting in the chair, as if she was afraid her resolve would disappear. "Are you sure?" The stylist woman was surprised. "Such beautiful hair, and cutting it off?" "Sure," Mia cut her off. "Please hurry. I have to be at work in 3 hours." The hairdresser didn't ask any more questions, only clarified the length of the cut and the color of the dye. Sometime later, a completely different girl looked at Mia from the mirror. Instead of a modest girl with a wheat-colored braid, a cunning fox stared back at her. Her green eyes became larger and brighter, emphasized by fiery locks, which the caring employee also curled with an iron. "The new look suits you insanely well," the stylist sincerely admired. "You look like a Hollywood celebrity." "Maybe this is what I needed?" Mia muttered quietly, examining the new her, from one side then the other. She paid, thanked the kind woman, and hurried to the restaurant. On the way, many men held their gaze on Mia, following her with admiring looks. At the restaurant, they didn't even recognize the head waitress at first, and upon recognizing her, they were amazed. The girl made a promise to herself. No one except family should know that she feels lousy, no tears or tragedy in public. Yes, she split up with her husband. That's it. She smiled at guests just the same, was just as polite and courteous to every visitor. Many of them came to lunch constantly and couldn't help but notice the changed appearance of their favorite waitress. Even the chef, stingy with compliments, appreciated it. "All right, run to lunch, gorgeous." "I made clam chowder for the staff." He winked at her from behind the prep table. "I'm just going to step out for some fresh air for a couple of minutes," Mia replied, taking off her uniform apron. She slipped out through the employee entrance into the alley and, sighing, sank onto an old wooden bench. Cooks and waiters usually smoked on it during breaks, but the girl didn't suffer from this bad habit. She just went out to clear her head. Mia opened her email and started looking at replies from event organizers. The day before, she spat on everything and decided to sing anything again. Just to sing. She wrote to several acquaintances. Some replied that there were no suitable songs in the programs, some that they had already fully staffed the artists. Someone hinted subtly that they found a younger singer. The whining of a fleeting dream whimpered in her head again. Mia looked at the bracelet on her hand, and at that very moment, her mom called. The girl couldn't stand it and emotionally vented to her parent about what happened between her and Derek. Mom scolded her former son-in-law with uncomplimentary words, pitied her daughter, and then asked if Mia would continue trying to break onto the stage. Honestly, it feels like higher powers are just mocking me, the girl complained, gesturing emotionally. Whatever I do, however hard I try, it's either rejection or they demand money. They don't even read the songs. Even my vocal coach is tired of dealing with me. Mom, maybe I really am untalented, since no one needs my singing? Mia talked and talked, not noticing that a man had frozen in the parking lot just behind the fence, listening intently to this desperate tirade. Okay, Mom, I need to eat and get back to work, Mia sniffled, hurriedly said goodbye, and returning her face to a neutral expression, went into the kitchen. The chowder turned out to be truly delicious, doubly so for the hungry girl. Having fortified herself and downed a mug of tea in one gulp, Mia returned to work. She habitually approached a table with a lone guest browsing the menu. Good afternoon? Ready to order? The girl clarified. However, instead of answering, the guest closed the menu, put it on the table, and looked intently at the waitress. Excuse me, but I seem to have accidentally overheard your phone conversation. The man smiled. Wasn't it you telling someone how hard it is for an aspiring singer to break through? Yes, me, but... Mia was taken aback. The pencil trembled in her hand. Don't be afraid, the guest calmed her. I'm not going to shame you. On the contrary, I want to offer help. Of what nature? The girl became alert, assuming she was about to hear another tactless proposition. Professional, the man replied. The fact is, I work in sound recording and artist promotion, and I've been looking for an unknown figure to create from scratch and promote for a long time. My interest is in implementing my own approach without relying on orders from above, which I'm thoroughly tired of, and you have a very bright, catchy appearance. If you sing just as magnificently, the potential is huge. And how much will you charge for such a service? Mia asked. You misunderstood. The man smiled wider. This will be an experiment. If we work well together and your skills prove to be truly worth my labor, we'll draw up a contract. Income from subsequent work will be divided according to its terms. Until then, all that is required of you is effort and faith. Mia thought she misheard. Her brain refused to believe in the appearance of such a fairy godmother, or rather, godfather who coincidentally grabbed onto her mom's quote in a stranger's speech. I won't pressure you. The man tempered his ardor. Think about it, and call in the evening if you agree. We'll arrange an audition. He took a business card out of his wallet and handed it to the completely bewildered Mia, and then voiced his order. Standing at the POS system and punching the guest's dish into the check, the girl twirled the received piece of thick paper in her hands. It had a print imitating the surface of a vinyl record, and on top of it, in white elongated letters, it read, Roman Chase, Soundgravy Recording Studio. And then the girl remembered that she had once seen this person on social media. Her heart beat faster. What do I have to lose? Mia asked herself, fingering the green beads in the bracelet under her shirt sleeve. There was truly nothing left to lose, and not trying would be foolish. 8 months later, April. Derek wiped his forehead with his hand and sat on a plastic-covered stool, looking over the freshly pasted strip of wallpaper on the wall. Renovation in the new condo began immediately after the purchase in late March. By moving in with Kyra, the barber was able to save enough per month to cover the down payment on the mortgage, combined with previously collected savings. On the day of the purchase, Derek not only delighted his beloved woman with the fact of a new home but also proposed to her. Now the couple lived between 2 apartments, did repairs on weekends, and planned the upcoming wedding for the first day of the coming summer. A key turned in the lock. Kira, as promised, returned early today to help her fiancé finish wallpapering the living room. In the hallway, cluttered with construction goods. There was suddenly a pleasant smell of delivery food. I'm hungry as a wolf. Derek walked over to greet Kyra. I thought so. Here, I grabbed a couple of boxes of Chinese takeout on the way. The journalist relievedly kicked off her heels and handed him the bag. I hope when we move in here, you won't be feeding me delivery, Derek inquired, studying the contents of the receipt on the boxes. Kyra snorted. Conversations about her meager culinary skills happened regularly and ended unpleasantly. They ate with chopsticks, sitting on those same plastic-covered stools. You'll never guess who I interviewed today, Kyra said intriguingly, fishing a shrimp out of her noodles. The singer Alice. You know, the one whose hit has been playing on the radio all winter. Derek raised an eyebrow in surprise. Obstacle Course, I think it's called? Yes, that's the one, confirmed the journalist. A mysterious girl, completely without pretension, pleasant. And, imagine, she came in a mask. I thought I'd at least meet her personally there, since on all the posters and promotional booklets, she stands with her back turned or covers her face with her hands. Shocking the public, Derek assumed. Let me tell you. Kyra put down the empty box. The newsroom was noisy as always. Preparation for a big evening program was underway. Kyra, ready in 3 minutes. The bearded head of the cameraman, Gene, poked through the door of the correspondent's office. Running. Kyra hurriedly fixed her hair and grabbed the list of questions from the table. Is she already here? She asked the editor-in-chief, Mark, in the corridor. Yes, waiting in the green room before the studio, he nodded. I just came from there. I'm warning you, you'll be surprised. By what? The journalist tilted her head slightly to the side. Instead of answering, the editor just smiled mysteriously and opened the door to the studio where the interview was supposed to take place in front of her. Kyra sat on the desk to the right, attached the sheet to a clipboard, prepared a notepad and pencil, nodded to the operator, and waved to the assistant to invite the guest. Less than a minute later, the singer walked into the room. She was in a gray-green dress with fiery red bobbed hair, beautifully styled by a skilled stylist's hand. But most importantly, the girl's face was completely hidden by a white mask with thin, elegant, doll-like features. The journalist saw only the singer's eyes, just as piercingly green as the dress. The journalist warmly greeted the artist. They discussed some technical issues and started recording. After greeting the viewers and introducing the guest, Kyra began the interview. Alice, I think the main question interesting everyone watching us today is why are you in a mask? Is such an unusual detail part of your image or something more? A little bit of everything. But the main purpose of the mask is honesty, the singer answered. I want listeners to evaluate my voice first, my energy, and not my appearance. I repeatedly encountered bias in this regard on my difficult creative path. And secondly, yes, a certain amount of intrigue is part of my media image. This idea came to someone from the creative team back at the song recording stage. First as a joke, and then we discussed everything and came to the conclusion that the idea is fresh and won't go unnoticed. And that's what happened. Do you plan to reveal your cards in the future? Kyra prepared her notepad. Possibly, but for now I can't say when and under what circumstances this will happen, the guest answered evasively. Your hit, Obstacle Course, literally burst into the radio charts in January. And here we are, 3 months later, and it's not losing ground. Share the secret of such rapid success. The singer thought for a few seconds, closing her eyelids, and then spoke. This song was written by me in one night, sitting on a balcony. My feelings during the period preceding fame were poured into it. Despair, disappointment in the world, brokenness, pain, and simultaneously faith in the best. The idea that you should never give up. I remember drinking 3 mugs of coffee that night, and in the morning I went straight to the studio without even sleeping. I wanted to splash emotions into music, but I couldn't imagine that my words would resonate so much in the souls of fans. Yes, fame can strike suddenly, Kyra nodded. What are you working on now? Should we expect new hits? Yes, absolutely, the singer nodded. For the last month, the team and I have been working on a full album. The forecasts are good. There will be 9 songs. If everything works out, we'll organize the first solo concert at the end of summer." "Such ambitious plans are worthy of admiration," noted the journalist. "And the last question. Alice, tell me, does anyone have a chance to win your heart? Delight the male fans with at least a ray of hope?" The girl under the mask obviously smiled. "Alas, probably not yet. My heart is more occupied than free," she informed the interviewer significantly, shrugging her shoulders. Kyra sighed theatrically and smiled at the camera. It was time to end the broadcast and say goodbye to the viewers. "Yeah, she's probably just ugly. That's why she hides her face," Derek assumed with a sneer. "Maybe she can sing, but has a crooked nose or crossed eyes? Some noble ideas and a mask. Pfft, her eyes are normal." Kyra was offended on behalf of the singer. Derek chuckled and then squinted and suddenly suggested, "Listen, let's invite her to our wedding to perform. She hasn't gotten big-headed yet, won't ask for a huge price. But later, if she becomes a big shot, we'll brag to everyone, 'You know who sang for us? Alice.'" "Yeah, right. The very one." Kyra stared at him doubtfully. "I don't know how good of an idea that is," she said. "I'd rather call those guys with the drums." "Parents won't understand drums," Derek parried. "And think about it. We're inviting her not for entertainment, but to show everyone that we can afford it. And it will probably play into her hands too. Extra PR in the media. Do you still have her number or her manager's?" "Yes, in my work notebook." Kyra nodded cautiously. "Okay, I'll try to arrange it." "Deal?" Derek beamed. Another thought immediately came to his mind. If the media diva agrees to sing at their wedding, then he needs to invite his ex-wife Mia. Let her at least look at how people achieve their goals. Maybe she'll find someone for herself at the wedding, like the cameraman Gene, whom Derek considered a frank loser, but Kyra stood up for him like a mountain. Or maybe the guests will be amused by that scarecrow. Derek hadn't communicated with Mia since the divorce. He knew from social media that she was also working at the restaurant as a waitress. The girl's profile was private, the photos there hadn't changed, and caused the man only pity and disdain. The bustling of a gray mouse was uninteresting to him, but the man couldn't miss the opportunity to painfully point out her place to her one more time. It remained to figure out how to present everything to Kyra. Roman gave Mia a thumbs up through the window in the recording booth. It was a signal that everything went well. The girl took off her headphones and walked out. "You're amazing. You nailed that spot that was sagging last time," Roman praised her, turning away from the monitor and mixing board. The change of vocal coach and a week of labor were not in vain. Mia tucked red strands behind her ear and took a glass of warm water from the table. After a long warm-up, her vocal cords were burning. "At this rate, we'll release the new album ahead of schedule." Roman looked contentedly at a scribbled sheet taped to the corner of the monitor. "The main thing is that it's quality and from the soul." "I'm not chasing deadlines," Mia said, swallowing the water. "I'm amazed at how you manage everything." Roman smiled, warmer, and gently hugged the girl around the waist. "Creativity, classes, home, and you continue to work in that stupid restaurant. How many times have I said, 'Quit that place'? Not only are you ruining your health, but someone might loosen their tongue and reveal Alice's identity to the public ahead of time." "They are like family to me," Mia gently stroked the top of Roman's head. "And so far, my songs don't bring me enough money to not work at all. You help, truly. I already don't know how to thank you and your guys for all the hard work. My conscience doesn't allow me to relax. I want to do something myself, too. As for protecting my anonymity, no one knows. I always work with my hair tied back. After all, no one has seen Alice's face. People can only build theories." "Oh, we didn't choose such a pseudonym for nothing," Roman grinned. "You are a real mystery." Mia looked at him warmly. Over the past time, they hadn't just worked well together but began to treat each other with warmth going beyond colleagues. Mia believed that it was Roman's energy, his calmness, and optimism that served as motivation for her. After all, if not for the adventurous proposal of the music arranger in the restaurant, she would probably have given up. There was a knock on the studio door. "Come in," yelled Roman. Anna, the assistant, appeared in the room. The girl handled his petty errands and simultaneously helped Mia build a personal brand as a singer. Mia, after your TV interview aired, several people contacted me, reported Anna, looking at the screen of her smartphone. First is a representative of a famous clothing brand store. They want to offer you to shoot for an ad for their new summer collection. Excellent. Write back that Alice agrees. But on the condition of maintaining anonymity, Roman perked up approvingly. Who else called? A club manager. Inviting you to perform in July as an opening act for another singer, continued Anna. We need to discuss that in more detail. Yes. Roman looked at Mia. Ready for that? Ready. The girl agreed without hesitation and asked the assistant, and what is the third offer? Oh, I'm even ashamed to say, Anna grimaced and hesitated. We'll decide if it's shameful or not. Tell us. Roman's voice became firmer. Some woman called, asked if Alice could sing her hit at their upcoming wedding with her fiancé in a month. Indicated the place and time. Waiting for our answer on the cost. Mia and Roman involuntarily glanced at each other. Cooperation for advertising is one thing, but entertaining drunk guests is completely different. Stooping to restaurant singing when we are on the way to the top. The man touched his chin with his fingers. On the other hand, it might help with PR if we throw the info to the right people. Mia, what do you think? I'll probably refuse after all, the singer replied after thinking, and added more quietly, one restaurant is enough for me for now. Anna, send all the info to our work email. We'll take it from here, Roman instructed the assistant, and she left the studio again. Mia sat on the small sofa and opened the email on her smartphone first, studied the strange offer, noted that the wedding was on the first day of June and in a place she had long wanted to visit but never found the time or energy. A restaurant on a ship moored at the embankment. Someone called Roman, and he left the studio, going out onto the balcony through the side corridor. Suddenly, a message arrived on Mia's phone from the one she tried not to remember. Hi, how are you doing? I'm getting married again, and as a sign that there is no confrontation between us, I would like to invite you to the wedding too. You can bring a date if you have one. Text me your decision within a couple of days. Rereading her ex-husband's message again, Mia was surprised to discover information about the date and place of the event below the main text. It exactly repeated the one listed in the email. Mia listened to herself. All the unpleasant moments connecting her with Derek surfaced in her head. Ignoring, neglect, the shameful tirade before the divorce in the car. Of course, he's calling her not for reconciliation, but to humiliate her, to show her how insignificant and pathetic she is, having achieved nothing, to rub her nose in the fact that he succeeded in life, and she, Mia, did not. And also to brag that he is capable of hiring a celebrity to sing for his guests, knowing that this is his ex-wife's personal sore spot. Mia looked at the ceiling and suddenly smiled. He wants to see her at his wedding. He will see her. Roman, the girl called out to the arranger, returning from the balcony. I agree to sing at the wedding. Really? The man was surprised and looked at Mia intently. If it's because of the money, don't. I'll find other offers. No, the singer interrupted him hotly. I think it's actually a good move for PR. Sign autographs, congratulate the newlyweds. Roman laughed. A producer streak is hatching in you, my dear. He clapped his hands. Then I'll contact the client and talk about the fee for your singing. And I'll think about what to wear in the meantime, finished Mia. She left the studio in a pleasant excitement that wasn't there even before performances. But the girl was sure her plan was worth all the nerves. The restaurant on the ship deck where Derek and Kyra decided to celebrate the wedding cost them a pretty penny. But when the journalist owners learned that the mysterious performer of the hit obstacle course, Alice, would perform at the banquet, various offers rained down on the couple. Photographers offered barter just to be let into the hall during the singer's performance. Journalists from other media outlets pestered Kyra with questions, and in the end, she agreed to invite some of them to the wedding. The restaurant owner promised the singer and her team free seats at a table and drinks. In short, an ordinary celebration turned into an anticipated event thanks to one single figure present at it, for no more than half an hour. To Derek and Kyra's surprise, the singer asked for very little for her services, which couldn't help but please them, since a lot of money had already gone into the organization and outfits. And Derek was also pleased that his ex-wife also agreed to come, moreover alone, without a partner, and completely calm. Kyra, learning about this, expressed weak dissatisfaction. "Do you think this is a good idea?" "I personally don't like it. It's a sign of goodwill." Derek adjusted his tie and turned sideways to the mirror. "I also don't like some friends from your side, but I didn't forbid inviting them. Friends are friends, and an ex-wife is completely different." Kyra frowned. "This tie doesn't go with the suit. Try the blue one better." "Blue doesn't match the shirt," Derek parried. "You also invited your childhood friend and boss. Like, I don't see how they both look at you." Kyra grimaced but remained silent, deciding that in case of unforeseen circumstances, there was security in the restaurant. If the lady decided to make a scene, she would be quickly escorted out. Initially, the wedding was planned not too big, but due to intrusive journalists, photographers, and other curious people, they had to organize an extra table. And when the celebration began completely, it looked like a reception in Hollywood. A red carpet for the newlyweds, an arch for the ceremonial registration, flashes of cameras, guests in evening gowns, a spirited MC in a suit with a bow tie. Kyra managed to change a luxurious mermaid dress embroidered with pearls to a cocktail outfit made of beige satin in the style of the 30 Seconds. There were many contests, congratulations, gifts, laughter, and fun. Derek enjoyed the pathos they managed to create from the bottom of his heart, and Kyra occasionally glanced toward the bored colleagues, sipping champagne from glasses at a table at the far end of the hall. She knew what they were waiting for, and not only them. "The important guest has arrived. Prepare the stage," whispered the MC to Derek and Kyra, moving the microphone away. "Well, finally!" Derek rejoiced, and immediately began tensely looking for someone in the hall. He didn't see Mia, although she promised to come. And after the start of the banquet, she texted that she was running late. Derek just snorted irritably. The ex-wifey got scared, and couldn't even admit it honestly. A crybaby she was, and a crybaby she remained. "Who are you looking for out there?" Kyra nudged her husband with her shoulder. "Ah, don't worry about it," Derek waved it off, pouring her more champagne. "Friends." The MC ran briskly onto the stage, attracting attention. And now, the main event of this evening. Of course, after the conclusion of the marriage union of our newlyweds, the sudden star of radio charts, the mysterious, bright, inimitable singer Alice. The lights in the hall went out for a few moments. Spotlights illuminated a dark structure on the stage, from which the MC had disappeared shortly before. The guests froze in anticipation. Photographers grabbed their equipment and took the most advantageous positions. A melody familiar to many began to play. Two dancers came out from behind the structure and smoothly turned it toward the audience. To enthusiastic whistling and applause, the singer stepped down from the pedestal on it. And this time, the artist was in a green dress, but short, velvet, and with a fringe of feathers along the bottom edge. Her face was hidden by a Venetian mask matching the dress, embroidered with green beads. Red curls framed her face like a fluffy mane. Wow. Amazing. It was a great idea, after all. Kyra looked enthusiastically at her husband. "I told you so." Derek broke into a smile. The number was staged brilliantly. Dancing, rhythm, artistry, everything delighted the guests. When Alice sang the verse of her hit for the last time, the hall couldn't stand it and applauded her. Many were touched by the song, not only by the beauty and flawless performance, but also by the meaning of how hard it can be to follow your dream. The performance ended with loud ovations. The singer with the backup dancers bowed to the grateful audience. Journalists immediately rushed toward her, but the MC darted to intercept them. "Alice, thank you for this brilliant number. Say a couple of words to the newlyweds." He smiled charmingly and looked back at the hall as if seeking support. The singer, who hadn't put away the microphone yet, brought it to her mouth again, and everyone fell silent. She turned to face Derek and Kyra. "Of course, I cannot leave the hall without congratulations and good parting words. came from under the mask. First of all, my team and I express our gratitude for the opportunity to participate in your celebration. It was exciting and a responsibility, but unfortunately, we are forced to refuse refreshments. We are in a hurry. And secondly, I wish the spouses happiness and mutual understanding in family life. The guests clapped again and even raised their glasses, supporting the artist. When the clinking of glass and applause subsided, the singer spoke again. And now, with the permission of the public, I want to say a few words to the newlyweds personally. She lowered the microphone, stepped off the stage, and headed straight to the newlyweds table. Photographers immediately started clicking cameras. Alice walked behind the table and stood next to Kyra, took her hands, leaned close to her ear, and started saying something quietly. She nodded barely noticeably, smiled, and toward the end, the bride's eyes glistened. The singer hugged Kyra warmly like an old friend, walked around her, and approached Derek. The man also rose from the table and turned to the guest of honor, prepared to accept her congratulations with unconcealed self-satisfaction. Contrary to expectations, the singer did not take his hands like she did Kyra's, but put her palms on the man's forearms, leaned in, and her voice came from under the mask. In this marriage, I wish you to learn what support is, what faith is, and what effort is not only for yourself, but also for the sake of your beloved woman. Derek, expecting more flattering wishes that stroked his ego, frowned slightly. Don't measure anyone only by what you see. The singer continued to speak quietly. Someone travels a long path, but time is no reason to despise. Respect your wife, love, listen to her, become a reason for her development and not a reason to lose heart. If there is support, people are capable of performing real miracles. Be a support to her, whatever happens, however difficulties press down. And maybe then you will finally understand that sooner or later, anyone is capable of jumping above their head. Even a girl without an education, building castles in the air. Derek jerked and stared dumbfounded at the artist's face hidden by the mask. From there, through the elegant slits, such familiar green eyes looked at him. The eyes of the one he considered a coward and a loser. I promised I would come, she added calmly. As you see, I kept my word. Alice let go of the stunned Derek, turned to the guests, and said cheerfully into the microphone, "Let's reward our newlyweds with applause. And I, alas, have to say goodbye. Thank you." The singer deftly tossed her microphone to the stunned MC, quickly skirted the journalists stuck between the tables, and disappeared through the doors. A part of the guests immediately rushed there, eager to get an autograph. "You look pale, Derek." Kyra looked into her husband's face when the commotion subsided, and most of those who wished, having received autographs on the street, sat back in their seats. "What did she tell you? And you?" Derek answered a question with a question, sipping from his glass. Wished for a creative rise, happiness in marriage, healthy kids, Kyra began to recall joyfully. "You know, it was so sincere and warm, as if we've been friends for many years." "Wait. Hey, you didn't answer." Derek loosened his tie. "Oh, nothing much," he answered vaguely. "Strong family life." Kyra shrugged, not noticing that her husband had become gloomy. The entertainment program continued. Ahead were still the cake, dancing, fireworks, but Derek no longer looked at everything happening with the gaze of a lion surveying his domain. Despite Kyra's feelings, despite the fact that he himself wanted this wedding, the man felt that he had been left a fool. Only why and where exactly, he never understood. August. Nervous? Roman massaged Mia's neck as she stood in the dressing room. Still, the first solo concert, and removing the mask too. The girl shook herself off and lightly patted her cheeks. Mom already called twice, worried too, but insanely proud. Even Dad thawed out. And Grandma, imagine, sent brownies right here via courier. The guys are already gobbling them up in the neighboring dressing room. I dream of meeting Grandma Irene. Roman became serious. She sounds like a saint. Mia smiled and began putting on jewelry. A green pendant on a black leather cord and earrings of a similar design. In every look of hers, she couldn't do without her favorite green, and also without at least one aventurine stone from her grandmother's bracelet, which was remade into several different sets. "You know, I decided to enroll in university for the third time," she announced the news, majoring in contemporary music. "You already know more than the praised professors in these universities," the producer noted kindly, sitting on a chair behind the girl near the wall. "Education never hurts." Mia tied the cord of the pendant around her neck in a beautiful bow, "especially since I promised my father I'd get a diploma." Roman raised his eyebrows respectfully. Every new day, this fragile girl, who turned not only into his loudest project but also became a loved one, amazed the man. So much persistence, capacity for work, patience, and desire were in her. How motivated she was, even by the most modest successes. She wasn't afraid of difficulties and boldly proposed the most unexpected ideas for creativity. With all the success, Roman barely persuaded Mia to quit the restaurant when it simply began to interfere with their schedule. She resisted until the last moment. "Then it only remains to wish you luck," the producer said, looking over the assembled artist. "Didn't forget anything?" "Huh? Oh!" Mia hurriedly grabbed a new shiny mask and began tying its ribbons behind her head. "Let me help." Roman gently took the mask ribbons, neatly moved the upper part of her hair away, tied a tight bow, and covered the knot with red curls. There, Alice in all her glory, he knew Mia was smiling under the mask. She shook herself off one more time and was about to leave the dressing room when suddenly she lingered at the door. "Thank you," said the girl. "For what?" Roman was surprised. "For believing in me when I stopped believing in myself," Mia murmured with warmth and gratitude. "Without your effort, my faith would have been little." The man laughed and suddenly hurried the singer. "Well, go on. The audience is waiting." Mia gave him one last grateful look and left the dressing room. Today, her fans would not only hear the live performance of Alice's first album, but also learn that behind the mask hides the most ordinary girl whose path in the spotlight is just beginning. Dear listeners who have accompanied me until the end of my story, how did you find today's tale? I'm curious about the impression it has left in your hearts and the thoughts it has sparked in you. Please feel free to share your impressions and opinions in the comments. I will carefully read each of them. The likes and subscriptions you give me are the greatest source of strength and motivation for creating better stories in the future. Please don't forget to do so. I sincerely wish that your life is always filled with happiness and good fortune, and that the warm light in your hearts never fades.